Welcome, closers. We are going live here with this webinar. We are live now. I am here with Alex Osenenko. Alex, thanks for joining me today. Super excited about what we're going to be talking about. It's a subject that is near and dear to both of our hearts. This is part one of a three-part series all about lead nurturing. It's important, why it matters, why it makes a difference in your business. Today, we're going to be talking about why you need a lead nurturing strategy. You may or may not be persuaded of that proposition, but we're going to go deep on a really primary question, which is why. Before we get into it, a couple of housekeeping notes. Number one, make sure that you are able to chat on the right-hand side of the page. There's a chat box where you can enter questions, suggestions, thoughts. We will be taking any of your feedback live during the call, so don't hesitate to shout out. Peter, I see you in there. I saw the message. Glad you're on the call. Anybody else, feel free to chime in. If you have a specific question, aside from just some general notes, if you have a question you would like us to formally address, do so at the bottom of the page. There is a question section. Anything you submit, we will get to at the end of the call. I also want to mention that we are going to be giving away a ticket to the PM Grow Summit. Big deal. You can read more about it at pmgrowsummit.com. Super excited about that. When are we going to be releasing some more details about the PM Grow Summit? I know people are kind of clamoring for information.
Well, Jordan, you and I, we have a meeting with our event coordinator to finalize the hotel details, since we don't want to really put people's calendars at risk if we don't have the dates completely firmed up. So we should have those dates firmed up, I would say, within the next week or so, maybe week and a half, and then we'll start sending out the save the date invitations and more details. As we introduce new speakers into the roster, we'll also be sending updates and getting you guys excited on the quality and the type of speakers we'll have. And I'm telling you, we already have like a pretty great lineup.
It's going to be awesome. Super excited about that. We are giving away a free ticket to that event. We will be doing that after the event. If you're registered, you are entered to win. Last thing, next week, we're going to be releasing the Make It Ring Masterclass. I'm also super excited about this. It's going to be a lot of great information from the Make It Ring book. Without further ado, we're now going to go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And Alex is going to kick us off.
Oh, I have a kick for you, baby.
Alex, what are we talking about today? Okay.
So, it's all going to be about lead nurturing, and we're going to have to, break this down a bit. And, we'll define lead nurturing, and we'll talk about the whys and a little bit get into on the hows. But conceptually, when you leave today, you'll have A, all your questions answered, and B, you'll have a good grasp of what it means to your business to have a lead nurturing strategy in place, and why should you even consider that as an important growth element of your business in the future. So let's go right into the next slide, Jordan. Okay. So we're going to start with the golden circle. This is Simon Sinek. He is the famous author, consultant, and he kind of is the inventor of this circle, so to speak. And he had this TED talk about the specific circle. And basically, this is how you determine where your business is going and if you're going to succeed as a company. Okay. So let me just explain what that means. So on the outer layer, you have the what. The what is like what you do. Well, we do property management. What is quite clear for most people. The next is a competency, right? The how, right? We have the systems, we have the workflows, we have the methodologies on how to manage properties better. And most companies are pretty good at that. The why, the center of the circle, is very few companies get to the why. And let me explain why that middle of the circle, the why, is the most important piece of your business growth and success puzzle. Okay, let's start with, and Simon talks in his TED talk, he talks about the Apple computer and how they started with why. And he's talking about the Wright brothers and them taking flight, and they started with why. I'm going to talk about something that is very near and dear to all of us. And that is, it's what's happening in our industry with some of the software providers. All of you, or most of you guys already know the Propertyware, the AppFolio, and the Buildium. Like the big three, those are the cloud-based property management software systems that that fight over for your business. And what happened? So the story goes like this. And I worked at both Propertyware and AppFolio, so I have a bit of an inside information that I'm going to share with you. Now, back in 2008 or so, Propertyware was the only game in town. And they've rightfully classified themselves as #1 property management software in in the world, and they were. I mean, they were very good. And in 2009, AppFolio comes around, and AppFolio started with a big why. The why is like AppFolio says, you know what, we love our customers, and we need to design the simplest possible solution to help property managers run their businesses better, be more successful, make more money. And with that strong why, they started building a software that was incredibly easy to use, which was starting to take Propertyware's market share. And as they grew, 2012, 2013, Propertyware still had the superior product. Yet AppFolio took over as the largest property management software in the United States. Why? Because they had the strong why, because they believed, they loved their customers, and they wanted to do the best for them. Propertyware was still #1 property management software. That's what they were. And, people respond to why. Now, what happened later is interesting as well. Some people might say, let me take a step back. Some people might say, well, AppFolio raised a lot of money. They had $22 million to start the company. So therefore, they own the market because of the money. There's some truth to that. But also, who stopped Propertyware from raising money? You know who stopped them? Their own motto of being #1. Why would they go after and do more if they already are #1? They got stuck at #1, and they're no longer #1. Right now, AppFolio went IPO, okay? They hired some marketing people, and, if you go to their website right now, it actually worries me a little bit, because right now, AppFolio says, we are powerful cloud-based property management software that allows property managers to manage more effectively and grow their businesses. I feel like AppFolio is beginning to lose the why a little bit, but Buildium is coming out of the woodwork. They've always been around, but they've been quietly growing their business. And now the Buildium has the best whys, right? If you go to the Buildium website and look, it's very, very clear. It's the why is we understand property management because we are property managers, right? That's a big why. And from that why, they operate. Right. And, their kind of motto is lease, operate, grow, and their why's connected to it. Why lease? Happy tenants, happy owners. Why operate? Get organized, focus on what matters, and so on. So Buildium, I feel like these days have the strongest why, while AppFolio has kind of reverted back to a bit of a corporate speak on that. Let me give you another example of why. Let's talk about personal, right? Personal goals and how why matters. So let's say you want to lose 30 pounds, okay? Let's go in the outer circle. What? Well, the directive is pretty simple. Lose 30 pounds. But how are you going to do it? Well, there are plenty of exercise routines, plenty of diets. Most of them work well. But if you don't have a good why connected, you'll never make the effort and stick with the program. But if your doctor tells you that 6 months from now, you may die if you don't lose 30 pounds, guess what you're going to do? You're going to lose them 30 pounds very, very quickly if that comes to that kind of why. So therefore, why is really foundational to everything you do. And we're going to focus on that why. And one last thing, and go ahead, Jordan, flip to the next one. One last thing on why, and a core reason is, for 4.5, our why is, we're here to help small businesses grow. I really don't care. And in fact, I don't give a flying fadoodle about big businesses because, have you ever worked in one? It's a mess. There are plenty of consultants and people to help big businesses, but small businesses and entrepreneurship is what makes this country great. So 4.5 fights for this country in the best way we know how, and that is by helping small businesses grow. So it doesn't really matter for me what challenges are along the way. Our why is so strong and so consistent that we're going to overcome all these challenges, and they're not going to matter in the long run. So we're going to get into why. Go ahead and flip the next one and talk about why lead nurturing is going to mean so much for your business from this day and forever until you are ready to exit very successful business. Go ahead next.
And Alex, I just want to say this was kind of a tricky decision for us. This was originally going to be one webinar and then 2 and now 3, because we realized that each one of these sections deserves its own treatment, and that's why we're dedicating this entire webinar to the question of why today.
Exactly. So let's go ahead with it. Let's go ahead next. Now, the typical sales funnel, and you guys, if you never seen this before, you got to get familiar with how your sales funnel, the terminology sales funnel, and what it really means. Because, everybody out there, who are qualified and interested, but not ready to buy yet, are your prospects. You have hundreds of thousands of prospects in your area, potentially, right? And then the leads are those who raise their hands and say, I am ready to talk to you, Mr. Business Owner, about managing my property. And the customers are those you're able to convince, or they convince themselves really, that you are the best to manage their property, and they move forward with you. So prospect, leads, customers. And the funnel is the large pool of prospects gets to the smaller pool of leads. And then, of course, the customers are the smallest piece. Go ahead and flip next, Jordan, please. Okay. So when you add a lead nurturing dimension to your business, you double the funnel size. So the prospects get doubled, the leads get doubled, and the customers get doubled. And that's, we're going to talk about that in a few slides here and explain exactly how this happens. Let's go next. Okay, so let's get to the definition. Go ahead and flip to the next one, Jordan. And so lead nurturing is what it is building relationship with people, even if they're not currently ready to buy. Okay, relationship with people, even if they're not currently ready to buy. So that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to focus the rest of the presentation and 2 more webinars to dive into this topic deep.
So to really drive this home of why it is such a big deal, I want to go back to a graphic that some of you have seen me bring up before. It's something that really is inescapable. And as you think about doing marketing, you should really be anchored in. You're talking about growing your business. So you're thinking, I'm going to do some marketing, some advertising. Well, this really represents the universe of potential outcomes. And what I mean by that is when you actually get a response or a result from marketing or advertising, when that response comes in, it's going to fall into one of these categories. It's either going to be somebody that's unqualified or that has become stale over time and isn't going to do anything for your business. It's a lead or a prospect that's not going to go anywhere. There's 25% of those contacts that you're going to receive that are actually sales qualified. They're ready to go. These are live, viable opportunities that someone will close. Maybe not you, but they're going to buy from someone in the marketplace. And then there's 50% that are qualified but not yet ready to buy. These are the folks that are genuinely interested but not ready to pull the trigger today, and we are all in that 50% category for some type of service or product. As an example, right now I'm in the market to buy a new car. We've outgrown our current SUV. We need something a little bit bigger. Doing research, I'm thinking about it, but I have zero interest talking to a car salesman right now. Get more information on my own, but I don't want to talk to a car salesman. That's a very legit category. It's a common thing we can all relate to. The problem is that almost every company in the property management space is focused over the same 25% of the market share. We're all clubbing each other over the head over the same slice of the pie. And that makes sense. I get it. You don't want to waste your time. You want to talk to warm leads. But in doing that, there's a very significant myopia. And so when I hear people say, well, we want to be differentiated in the marketplace, we want to do things differently, we want to stand out, and yet they're still entirely focused on the small subset of the market that is actually ready to buy today, while ignoring the much broader segment of the audience that is qualified but not yet ready to buy. That is the giant mistake that is being made. And this is the blue ocean, the massive opportunity for those folks that are willing to go beyond the path of least resistance and to actually say, let's go upstream. Let's differentiate ourselves by catering to the subset of the audience that is a little bit more challenging, not quite sales ready, but nonetheless a very viable segment of the overall audience. And this is where we see significant growth come from. The companies that we have dealt with personally that have had very rapid growth, this is one thing they've absolutely done. People ask me all the time, I'm doing some marketing, trying to grow. Where should I get leads from? And we can talk about XYZ vendors. That's fine. There's a lot of places you can generate leads from. But ultimately, what you're going to find is that at some point, if you're really significant about aggressive growth, you're going to run out of leads from all property management and from APM. Blogging isn't going to be enough. If you really want to max out your potential for lead generation, you have to do more. You have to practice more than one tactic, more than one lead generation source. And ultimately, very quickly, you're going to realize that you have to do this. You have to care about the 50% of the market that is qualified but not yet ready to buy, because you're very quickly going to max out this 25%. And if you don't move on from that, it's going to be the long-term bottleneck in the growth of your business. So when we talk about lead nurturing, what exactly are we talking about? Well, there's a couple of different terms that people throw out, things like life cycle marketing, which basically just means you need to acknowledge that customers are in different phase. You have people that are thinking about it, people that are currently using the product, you have people that are post-purchase, and depending on where that person is at in relationship with your business, we should have different messaging for them. That's basically what lifecycle marketing is. Drip marketing, when people say drip, they're just talking about the concept of automation. That's it. I want stuff to happen automatically, and that's great. People also throw out the term database marketing, which is basically just acknowledging, hey, you know what? Talking to new people is great, but you also have all these existing customers, prospects, and people you've come into contact with. There's a huge gold mine in maintaining and developing relationships with those existing people you already know. Lead nurturing subsumes all of these concepts. They all kind of interact with the concept of lead nurturing in some way, shape, or form. And in practice, at the most basic level, this is what lead nurturing looks like. Somebody goes to your website. They want to get some information. And instead of saying, yeah, I'll give you some basic information, but if you really want the real goods, you need to call me. You need to get on the phone. You need to have a conversation with a salesperson. Lead nurturing says, you know what? Hey, you don't have to do that. If you're ready, that's great. But really, I've got value-added information prepackaged. Here's an ebook. Go ahead and download it. Read it at your own leisure. No commitment. If you'd like to have a conversation later, that's great. Well, they do that. They give you their email address. They download the ebook. And then after they consume that ebook, they have more follow-up information coming out in the form of additional emails. It could be additional ebooks, email content, webinars, whatever it may be. You're now educating the consumer, you're educating the prospect, and eventually when that person does consider hiring someone, they are no longer starting from scratch. They're not going to Google. When they are ready to buy and they're thinking, who should I buy one? They're never starting from scratch again. You now have ownership in the #1 spot in their mind in terms of which specific vendors they should be working with. And that's when the process of the traditional sales process, where most people start, actually begins. And then from there, our odds of actually converting that person into a customer when they're in the active sales process is much, much higher. So at the end of the day, we're talking about anticipating customer needs, which basically just means caring. It means not calling these people tire kickers or saying that they're wasting our time. Taking the time to acknowledge you have the expertise, you do this for a living. There's nobody that should know more about what these folks need in terms of information, felt needs, etc., and spending the time to address those needs with solid information. Next is systematizing your value. Forgive me, the slide's messed up.
Jordan, can I ask you to go back to the previous slide? I have something to add. I'm sorry to kill your flow, but one more.
This one?
Yep. So
sure, go ahead.
So this is kind of important to understand what the lead nurturing process looks like. And Jordan did a good job to go over this. But what we found lately, we've been connecting the offline process into this online process and kicking people into the nurturing bucket, so to speak, and letting the information percolate and helping them choose the right property manager, you. And so what we've done, we did a mailer on behalf of our clients. One of the clients, we're still testing this process, but one side of the mailer said, and I have it on my desk here, I can show it to you later, I want to be on video. On one side says, hey, all these headaches of property management, we can take care of it for you. Give us a call, free consultation. The other side of the mailer essentially says, you know what? You don't have to call us if you don't want to yet, but we have a book on how to manage your rental property in your specific location. Go to this link here. I'm going to show this little thing here. Go to this website, and all of it is tracked, obviously. Go to this website and download an ebook, right? And we had a good number of ebooks downloaded, not a single phone call yet. It was a first mail drop. But the thing is that the lead nurturing connects to every element of your marketing. So if you have a good ebook, and good content is the foundation of it, right? You have a good ebook and you have a good educational resource, you can use it in mailers. You can use it in your networking groups, right? To have people go to this specific website, download a book so you can capture their information. You can grab business cards on your way to work. If you take a train, you start a conversation with somebody on a flight, you take that card, you put it in nurturing, and let that nurturing campaign take care of the education for you. And by the way, I'll let you know that educated clients are the best clients you can have because they know exactly what you stand for, how you do things, and they connect what they need to what you offer in their mind already. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment. But go ahead, and Jordan, I'm sorry to interject.
So what are we talking about here, Alex? What we're talking about is systemizing how you deliver value. What Alex just talked about is a great idea. And somebody could, manually send out postcards by hand. Is that realistic? No. All of this is saying we're going to take these great ideas and we're going to make sure that we have consistent and flawless execution. And that's what lead nurturing represents, is systematizing how you deliver value so that it happens consistently and ultimately focusing on building a long-term asset. And I cannot emphasize this enough. We have a separate business. We're actually going to talk about it in a little bit, where we do some lead generation. People buy leads from us. They end up responding, etc. And one of the most frustrating aspects of that business is seeing people treat leads as this transient kind of barely valuable asset. Well, hey, I got this lead and hopefully it's going to convert in the next 7 to 14 days. But if it doesn't, worthless, throw it out the door. They're wasting my time. As opposed to the attitude of saying, I am going to build a long-term asset in my list. I'm going to build up my email list. I'm going to build up the scope of relationships that I have in my business and that I have created value for. That is a long-term asset that will pay massive dividends. But Alex, does it really work?
Well, let's see. Go ahead and flip to the next slide. Have some data. So I was able to convince Jordan to put all his research data and basically throw away half of it and put the other half in this one slide, which you can read from left to right if you'd like to. But, Jordan is really strong on math and numbers and analytics, and I love that. But I think to convince you that this works, it doesn't take a mountain of data. It only takes a few key data points, and the rest is widely available on the internet if you want to validate your decision to invest time and effort into lead nurturing. But this one statistic that absolutely shoots me in the face, and it is that 44% of salespeople give up on a first try. Okay, and that is average. So that means your salespeople can give up earlier. A lot of times, you, the founder, is the salesperson. I have been for 3 years with this company. And thanks, Abby, for taking that torch and running with it. But hey, when I was a salesman, I remember the pressures of running a company and also trying to do my follow-ups. But having a CRM system, we use like this janky capsule CRM system. Still use it, by the way. And I religiously went through my follow-ups. And back in those days, some of you customers who've been with us for that long, I was the salesperson. You talked to me, and I followed up, and I was relentless. Relentless because I have my why. I have very clear definition of what I do and why I do it. And I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and annoy somebody for a good reason. But 44% of people don't do it. I'm sorry, 54% of people don't do it. One time they give up. And that's one of the keys. The other statistic is, I think that's just right away up your bottom line double your bottom line is, companies that excel at lead nurturing create 50% more sales ready leads at 33% less cost. Just imagine the impact. If you end of the day, customer acquisition cost is $500 right now, you can drop it to $250 or less. Okay, how significant is that for your business? It is very, very important. But go ahead and let's go to the next slide. You guys get the recording and the slides. You can read the specific statistics. Now, the Fortune 500 is the 500 largest companies in the United States, in the world probably. I'm not sure what Fortune ranks, but all of them use lead nurturing, every single one. And that's, that is kind of, if you want to grow and be and have a successful company, whether it's a lifestyle business or you want to scale and dominate, that's fine. But the lead nurturing, you got to follow the good example. And the good example is Fortune 500, those companies that made it, they all use lead nurturing as a way to grow their businesses.
And Alex, what I love about this is how many best practices are there that Fortune 500 companies practice that you could immediately co-opt? Are you going to be able to have a giant building in downtown Manhattan with your name on it? Are you going to have a sales staff of 900 people? Are you going to be able to are you going to be able to sponsor a Super Bowl ad? Probably not. This is actually something that you can do at the level of quality and consistency as a Fortune 500 company, because it is a systematized process. It does not require you to have a giant staff. It's the sort of thing that you can build one time and just let it run. That's what I love about that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So, I'm confused. Like, so many things I want to say, but I want to be concise and accurate. Let's just say this. This is happening already without your participation in it. So the dance is on, and somebody's dancing with your partner all the time.
Right.
You don't even know about it, much less, stepping in to take control, right? So let's go next. Next slide, please, Jordan. Yes, that's how much of the dance is already happening without your participation. 70% of the buying cycle is already complete before you ever even have a chance to speak with the lead. So they've made up their mind, and because of the internet, because the availability of information online, people look you up. You can't hide. You can't run. You can put your best foot forward, have a solid why you do what you do, and convey that passion onto your website and every single piece of content that you produce, and you will win in a major, major way. But even if you have all that and you don't have a way to enter the conversation with this, insert yourself somewhere within the 70%, then you're missing out. Let's go to the next slide. So there is an opportunity for you to connect with those 50% of your prospects who are not ready to buy, but they're interested and they want to know more about managing the property. They want to know the challenges. They want to see how to do it themselves potentially, or they want to see what the other companies are doing wrong. Because if people are being mistreated by their property manager, by your competitor, they would know about it until you tell them that, no, you should not suffer. Suffering is not part of being a real estate investor. No, it's not. And for you to be able to propagate that information, it's not enough to only have blogs and content that speaks to that notion. You need to be able to give them something for free and then kind of trickle that information into their inbox and help them make that decision, that realization. Let's go ahead next, Jordan. So, this is my favorite slide in this whole slidergram thing. How marketers think the buyer's journey is. Like, oh, they're going to go down the funnel all the way into customer, and that's how it's going to work. But in reality, our life takes over. Have you researched the product? Have you researched the service before? I mean, just remember your own experience. I mean, we go back and forth. We have so many different things. And then you finalize your research, then your friend recommends somebody else, then you realize they're bozos, and you go back to your research and then you don't need it anymore. Then you found a good tenant, then a tenant leaves. Now you need somebody. Let's go ahead and next slide. And so the buying process is sporadic. You don't control any of it, except, let's go ahead next. Except that you can put guideposts and guide the person gently into the correct decision, which is working with you. But the only way you can do that is by content, by providing value. Give something for nothing. This is the golden rule of reciprocation that we, the human race, are, live by. And this is what separates us from the mammals and everybody else. It's the rule of reciprocation. Okay, we're all grateful for people who give us kindness and provide value to us. So you show the kindness and provide value along the buyer's journey. You will be a dominating player in your industry, in your town, in your space, no matter what business you're in. But if you're a property manager, a lot more so, because it's a complex service. It's not that simple. It's not a widget. It's not a cup of coffee. Your service is, people don't understand what they get, and they don't even understand they're in trouble until they're deeply in trouble. So this is a huge opportunity for property managers to give value in very simple ways. Just tell people how to do things, answer their questions. Go ahead. Let's go ahead with the poll, Jordan, I think.
All right. So guys, we're going to be doing a poll now. And you can actually go to the bottom of the page. You can see that there is a couple of tabs. There's a questions and topics tab. Next to that, there is a polls tab. Go ahead and click on the polls tab. And we have two polls that we're going to ask you to answer. The first is, do you currently have any kind of lead nurturing program, i.e. drip automated emails, in place? Second question. Does your business do content marketing? Are you blogging? Are you doing videos? Are you putting out ebooks, etc.? These are the two questions. Jump down there right now. Answer those poll questions right now. You can see the metrics going up, down here. We'll give this a couple of seconds to settle. Looks like we're in somewhat of a dead heat on question number 1 here. I think part of that's because a lot of these are LeadSimple and 4.5 customers.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and consider that this is now settled. So we have, with question number 1, do you currently have any kind of lead nurturing program in place? 56% said yes, 45% said no. Question number 2, does your business do content marketing? 61% said yes. So we clearly have more people doing content marketing than are doing lead nurturing. And Alex, that really brings me to my next kind of overall question, which is, why aren't more people doing this? We're going on and about why it's so important. Well, Alex, if it's so great and it's so fantastic, why aren't more people doing it? And riddle me that.
Yeah, that would not be difficult. I spent my life in my village, which is the property management industry. That's my village. And I spoke to a lot of villagers, my man, a lot of villagers, and a lot of people that are on the chat, they're friends, and we've done business together. And one thing that is very, very clear to me is that nobody wants to touch small business in a way unless they really care. And it's just intimidating for people. I think too busy is a good excuse, but not good enough. Impatient, not good enough. I think intimidation. I think people are intimidated because there's such a variety of technologies out there, all these freaking solutions out there that do wonderful things, but it's like you have to be a scientist to understand what this, I mean, we've been looking at email marketing software for this product for a long time. There's like 1,500 of these. How do you know which one to pick? How do you know which one worked for you? How do you know when to send and what and to whom and how often? Like what is that stuff? Like, how do you know that stuff? So then, the prudent property manager goes in, starts reading about this stuff. Like, oh, lead nurturing, I need to do it. So let me go get educated. And they read all this stuff, and they basically get confused, and they forget their business because they're so busy reading about lead nurturing that, at the end of the day, they go back and wear multiple hats and become business owners again and forget this whole project. So I think people are intimidated. I think too busy is an excuse while you are, already in the sales cycle, so to speak. You already know you need it. You're just kind of biding your time, going through the leasing season, whatever it is. But intimidation, I think, to me, it's intimidating. All this technology out there, all these solutions, all these solicitations and marketing I get, they're all scream at me that they're all fantastic, but are they made for my business? Are they made in a way that I can use them, the way that it actually is going to save me time and bring me value, versus just eat up my time and end up not working and eating up a lot of money? So to me, it's intimidation, Jordan.
Yep, I think you're spot on.
Okay, so and it's also you can stay on the slide, but it's also a lot easier to not be intimidated and just buy more leads, right? That is a very, very clear solution to growth. You know what? Let's get more leads. We'll just spend more money on marketing. We'll buy more leads from all property management, whatever these other resources, manage my property, and we'll just we'll force our way into growth, right?
It's the path of least resistance.
Exactly. It's less intimidating because the formula there is fairly consistent. You're going to close 20 to 25% of your prospects. The hell with the other 75. I don't know what to do with them. Let somebody else worry about them.
Well, 20 to 25 is pretty optimistic. Industry average is 13%, and a lot of folks that are buying leads are well below that, because the reality is the folks that are buying leads oftentimes are the folks that are interested in applying the least effort in marketing. And it's pretty unusual that if you have no interest in actually doing decent marketing of any kind, you're actually going to be invested in the sales process. So a lot of those folks that are buying leads are closing them more at around, let's say 8-9%. So it is it's a tough road to hoe. It's a hard way to go.
Agreed.
All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about understanding the opportunity cost.
I love this story, man.
And to do that, I'm going to be sharing a personal example of a painful failure. Nobody likes to talk about failure, but truthfully, Alex, I don't know about you, but I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're definitely a little bit more comfortable dealing with failure, both experiencing it and processing it afterwards. If you have the entrepreneurial DNA, comfortability with failure is definitely either a born or learned skill set that's pretty necessary. And so because of that, I want to share from my failure so that hopefully you cannot make the same mistake, learn something from it. 2008, founded my first company. Went out there, did something new into the scary world of entrepreneurship, and I staked my claim. We started a lead generation business called Manage My Property. And the very first thing that we did when we actually got this business started, because we had no idea what we're doing, right? That's the nature of starting a business. You're kind of figuring things out. But I knew that content was important, right? Alex, I get some props for that, right? At least knowing that content is important. And so I poured my heart and soul, 2 points. I poured my heart and soul into creating a hiring guide on what to look for when hiring a property manager. And this took me forever. This literally took me 3 months to write, and it was fine because I was just starting a new business, so I didn't have any customers to deal with. I actually had the time. And it also took me 3 months because I didn't know anything about property management, hadn't done it, and have not done it for a day in my life. I'm a lot more familiar now. We have hundreds of property management customers, much more embedded in the industry. But at the time, I knew nothing. And so it was just raw will and research. Was it actually worth it for me to create 67 pages of a no holds barred, best in class resource that to this day is the best thing you can find on the web? Most definitely, it absolutely was. This paid the freaking bills. We got paid some serious dough off of this resource. And not necessarily in the near term. In the near term, when I hit publish, there wasn't any applause. Nobody patted us on the back. We weren't recognized in any publications. But over time, over the years and years that this has been up, I believe this has been up for about 8 years now, this slowly but surely climbed the rankings because it was quality and because the days of black arts-based SEO with these little hacks and tricks and you're going to trick Google, because that era is over. It's dead on the floor. It's been limp body for some time now. And Google is now smart enough to where increasingly they do an amazing job of recognizing quality content. This was quality content. It climbed the rankings. We got a significant payday, and yet it failed. We got paid enough for this to have been, if it had taken me a year to write, if it had cost me $100,000 to create this, it still would have had positive ROI because it generated such great results, and yet it failed. How can I say that? How can I say that this kind of a huge success was still a failure? Well, I'll tell you why. The reason why, we broke the golden rule. We did not practice lead nurturing. People came here, they read the content, and that subset of our audience that was ready to convert, they did so. It was a slam dunk. Those were the leads that we monetized, and it was awesome. But that was only a small subset of our audience. There was far, far more people, 2 or 3 times as many people that came here. They were interested, but they weren't ready to buy now. They would have been ready to keep having a conversation. I could have stayed in front of them with other value-added information. I could have maintained a relationship, waited it out, been patient enough, and been systematized enough, had our act together to be able to capture those prospects that were qualified but not yet ready to buy. But we didn't do it. And because of that, the estimated loss for us not having done that, for us not having a lead magnet, email capture form, practice lead nurturing, around $400,000.
That's a fortune. That's a fortune. That's not a bit of money.
It is, and that's not day one, right? I mean, that is the estimated loss over the years and that this content asset, that is the revenue, the missed revenue opportunity that we could have captured if we had placed. Folks, that is painful. This is money. Those are real dollars that could be in our pocket right now, but it's not because we made this mistake. We don't want you to do that, guys. Any clue as to what I did in my next company? Anybody want to venture a wild guess? Actually, the second thing I did in my next business, because the first thing was that I created an insanely valuable content asset. But anybody want to guess what the second thing I did was?
Zach,
I'll answer that question for you.
Zach says lead capture. I think he's onto something.
Wow. Zach, that's very insightful of you. We used a very secret formula, patented, 11 herbs and spices, engineered by NASA, a very secret formula of creating something of value, capturing somebody's email based on that valuable asset, adding more value in the form of more content, converting them into a trial, adding more value, eventually having that trial or that meeting turn into a customer. And then once they're a customer, continuing to add more valuable content to enhance and enrich their life and their business. Alex, I'm thinking about getting this process of adding value in people's lives patented. What do you think?
I think you're, yes, I think you're spot on, man. This might be in the next business.
Guys, it's not a secret formula. Anybody can do this. Anybody can, and they should. And so my message to you is the best time to plant a tree was 200 years ago. The second best time is right now. If you've been making that mistake like I have with not having a robust lead nurturing program in place, hey, forget it. It's water under the bridge. Now's the time to actually do it. And now here's somebody to actually bring home this concept, because Alex, you've been doing marketing and lead generation for your clients for a long time. Why do you personally, and why does your business care so much that you actually make this a business priority for your clients?
That's a very good question and a nice setup there, Jordan. Thank you. So, we've been doing it for exactly 4.5 years. So, we celebrated our 4.5 anniversary last Friday as a team, and that's the result right here. A little bit wind up, but it was a good time. So I want to take a step back and talk about failure, and I'll bring us right back to this question that you had. So failure is inevitable as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. You have to, that's one of the first things that you learn. You have to be able to get up. You're going to be knocked down. And you guys are all entrepreneurs on this webinar. All of you listeners are, my hat is off to you for taking that plunge, right? But how many times have you been struck in the jaw? How many times have you fall down? How many times that, the tenants reviews, the Department of Real Estate, the owners, the angry, the police, the sheriff, the evictions, you guys being knocked down all the time. But I think, again, if your why is clear and if you know that you're doing a good thing, and let me just remind you what you guys are doing. You're helping to find places to live, or you're helping people manage their largest asset. That's all they're going to have. The biggest asset they'll ever have in their life, most likely, is that home that you're managing. That's how important what you do is. And so if you connect that, and if you have a clear why, getting up is not a problem. But now, taking a step back and talk about the reciprocation, the golden rule of reciprocation and all the whys. When I entered this space, the property management village, I immediately fell in love with how real and natural and honest and just fun the NARPM people and everybody else in property management are. But what I found is the information was scattered everywhere. To make any kind of growth decision was almost impossible. There were a bunch of software companies that helped you, optimize your processes, but nobody helped you to grow. There were lots of coaches, lots of people that will tell you what to do, but will they do it for you? No, they wouldn't. So we decided to start educating on the specific growth strategies. Being specific and actionable was kind of key. And for my very first blog, 5 years ago, all the way to this morning's blog, we stuck to that kind of to that motto, right? We want to provide value for nothing. We want to educate. If nothing else, I release good information into the world and let that information help and carry my purpose for this life on earth further into my village and help people out. That's the honest decision. That's the honest reason why doing it. Now, making money and profit is a result of that. It's not the purpose of your business. It's the result of your business. So going back, talking about the lead nurturing, why it's important is because we found this one weird thing. And I did not know this. This knocked me down. I did not know this starting this company. What we found as we kind of scaled up and had, a few dozen clients, then 100 clients, then 200 clients, then, multiple hundreds of clients, we found that the number of leads don't always correlate to growth. Let me repeat that. The number of leads received don't always align with the growth of the business. I had people call me up, say, Alex, I have not grown at all. And we go back, we have call recordings, we measure and record everything because we want to, again, help improve the process. And what we found is the big part that was missing is, the bridge between the marketing and the actual growth was broken in a lot of ways for a lot of people. And that is the sales process. The sales process and the nurturing. The 50% of your customers, the 50% of your prospects who are not ready to buy today, were never reached out to. The 44% of people gave up on the first phone call, right? The 44% of lead calls only had this one call and they never followed up. So those statistics, I did not know that was the problem, but now we learned that this is a problem. Let's go to the next slide. I had, Jordan, next slide. There you go. So, and realizing that we need to help our customers with the sales process. This was the directive. We thought that this is the way to connect, finally, marketing and business growth. We know we can get you leads. Now we need to help you to close them. So then I found a man who bought me an ice cream. Okay, he bought me ice cream. It is the pink one that was mine. And we inked a deal over ice cream. Granted, we had lots of sake before that, but ice cream was where we kind of just really kind of connected over this as we walk in and eating our ice creams. And this was a kind of love at first sight, if you will, because LeadSimple solves the sales process. And that tells us exactly where your buyer is in their journey. You know what I'm saying? We know if this is a discovery, if they just raise their hand, they're interested, or if they're like deep in the sales process and you already sent them a contract. We know based on LeadSimple usage where your customer is in their buying journey. And then we can connect the automation, the drip campaigns, the email marketing piece, put it on top of LeadSimple and send them the right information to nurture these customers, pre-customers, into becoming customers. So this was a kind of a match made in heaven, so to speak. And the rest is history. But I'll tell you, that ice cream tastes good, and I think the way this product has been growing and maturing and being adopted by customers, I'm very thankful for that ice cream. That was a good ice cream. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the sushi sake was pretty good ahead of time. I wish more business was done that way on a handshake.
That's right.
So, guys, I want to make sure that you know that everything we've talked about today was all centered around the why. The purpose and the reason that we are here is to help enable you with business growth. Lead nurturing is a part of that, and you must understand the why to be able to understand the how and the what. And we have every intention of covering the how and the what, and we will in parts 2 and part 3. On your screen, you can actually see a link to part 2. So there's a green button that says part 2, how to develop your lead nurturing strategy. That is where we will be getting into the how, talking about the actual practical nuts and bolts, starting with the 5-step nurturing game plan. These are the key 5 steps that you need to complete to be able to have a robust lead nurturing game plan. And it includes things like identifying your buying stages. So saying, well, we know that generally speaking, people go through these 5 stages: recognition, research, evaluation, purchase, review. The question is, what are they doing at each stage? And based on what they are trying to accomplish at each stage, what do we need to be communicating so as to be able to allow them to accomplish their goals and to earn the right to continue to have an ongoing conversation with them to pull them towards the close, whether or not that happens in 6 weeks or 6 months. So we're going to be getting down to brass tacks in part 2, which is the how. That's happening coming up soon. I believe August 11th is the date that we have pegged, but go down and do click on that button that says part 2, how to develop your lead nurturing strategy. Go ahead and sign up for that next event. Alex, if people want to get a little bit more information, understanding about the lead nurturing work that 4.5, the done for you solution that 4.5 provides for their clients, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you and your team?
Just jump on 4.5.com, jump on chat, talk to Abby, talk to any of our guys. We're not pushers, right? We're not going to make people. My best customers are educated customers. We're not here to sell, so to speak. We're here to educate, provide value, and hopefully you'll reciprocate when you're ready in your own buying journey. But check out 4.5.com. We have lead nurturing as a product. There's a bunch of resources there to understand how it works and what it costs, and how it helps your business. So that part is easy to do. Just 4.5.com and start your journey.
Perfect. So Abby, go ahead and drop. I know Abby is on the live stream and in the chat section. Abby, if you could throw out your email address so people can get in touch if they would like some more information. Guys, thank you so much for attending this event. Here at LeadSimple, our entire mission is to help you improve your sales process to be able to close more deals and grow your business. We do that by focusing on helping you to respond to leads faster, to track what lead generation efforts are driving results and which aren't. We also help you track all of those calls and emails, all of those interactions. We track them automatically. We organize it in one place, and we have systems to enable workflow automation and drip campaigns. We try and tie it all together for you. If you'd like more information, of course, you can go to leadsimple.com, but you can also check out the sales course, which I previously mentioned. Jump in my funnel. I promise I will make it worth your while. Alex, we are now going to transition to Q&A. Let's go ahead and do it. I'm going to pull down.
Jump in your funnel, huh, Jordan?
Screen share. All right, so let's go ahead and start taking some questions. Guys, please keep in mind, some of you entered questions in the chat on the right-hand side. If you could instead drop those questions in the question section down below, that's what we're going to be looking at and referencing as we are answering these questions. Let's go ahead and kick things off with the first question in the list, which was from Stephanie, who's asking, can you send the recording? Also, yes, if you registered for this event, you will be sent a recording afterwards. Also, what I would like to see is please provide some examples or a model of content to develop for each stage, from awareness all the way down to when you're trying to make the close. So Alex, I'm going to let you comment on that, but we are going to be getting into the nitty gritty of actual content sequences, timing, what to say, etc. on part 2 and part 3. But Alex, you've done so much content marketing for your clients. This is kind of a softball for you. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the question. What's the question?
The question is basically just types of content that people can use to create value for prospective owners.
Okay, that is a foundational kind of a question, a very prudent and very good question. So I'm going to do one phrase, 4 words, and that's what's going to define your content strategy for lead nurturing and growing your business. They ask, you answer. That's what Marcus Sheridan teaches, the sales line. We're trying to get him to keynote, and I'm just going to drop it right now, Jordan. We're going to try to get him to keynote our PM Growth Summit in January. That guy is solid. I followed him for the whole life. He's been around. He's a small business owner that grew up to become this influencer in terms of content marketing, and he is essentially the role model I follow in my business. And he says this: they ask, you answer. In other words, look at the way you implement this. Look at all the questions you are getting from your prospects and clients. Write them all out, and very simply, you probably know by heart, most of them. Write them all out. Prioritize on how often they're being asked, and answer those questions in written blogs or video blogs or even webinars, whatever floats your boat. But video is usually good. I like the video because it conveys personality a little bit, and it showcases who you are, and it shows that you're honest and you're there to help. But you don't have to do video. If you're not comfortable, fine. Write it out, but you have to be either good at writing or doing a video or something. And if you're not, find somebody who is. They're inexpensive. Go on Craigslist, find a copywriter, and have them write your thoughts as you put them on the back of a napkin. They'll create a nice article for you. And then what happens is you put those on the blog, and those get converted to the lead nurturing emails.
Yeah, definitely. Those are some good thoughts. I mean, I would just take another angle at it and say that Alex is talking about some different topics which are driven by the Q&A. But the other question is how do you package those? What's the quality difference between a blog versus a video versus an ebook? And really the way I think about that is that packaging matters. Packaging is very, very important. So the more transactional nature of a blog, which is kind of a one-off thing, is fine if we're talking about search. We're focusing on a specific keyword, building traffic over the long haul. There's significant value in that. But if you're talking about a one-time presentation and expecting somebody to feel and experience value, going from an ebook and going from a blog post and jumping up to more like an ebook, there's going to be an increase in perceived value. And so that's the other thing to think about, is the way that you package whatever type of content it is that you're trying to generate. We'll be talking more about that on the next part 2 as well. Next question is, what is the percent of leads converted after lead nurturing for 6 months? Okay, so that's a really good question. So the first thing is, it's hard to just make a broad brush general answer. I mentioned earlier that the overall conversion rate for the property management industry in terms of form submission to actual closed lead is 13%. So what we're really the question you're asking is, how much lift can we expect as a result of doing lead nurturing? Because lead nurturing is going to do 2 things. It's first going to bring people into our funnel that were never going to be there because they were qualified but not yet ready to have a sales conversation, and beforehand you had no way of engaging them. Now doing lead nurturing, we're putting content out there, we're capturing them earlier with things like ebook, video, a newsletter, whatever it may be. So there's new leads coming in. Secondarily, of the existing leads, let's say a lead you already got from All Property Management or wherever, your existing lead channels, those leads are going to be more likely to convert because we're doing more hand-holding, more massaging. We're basically just acknowledging, we're not trying to jump in for a kiss as soon as we meet somebody on the first date. We're actually taking time to build the relationship the way that you would expect. So in terms of the lift, it's hard to give a broad brush answer, but I would go back to the initial stat that we read off earlier, which was that approximately a 50% bump in whatever your baseline conversion rate is right now. You should, if it's done well, you should be expecting a 50% bump in that conversion rate as a result of a well done lead nurturing program. And that stat also mentions a 33% lower cost. And that's because we're talking about a automated system. So you're not having to employ human effort to do all of this follow-up and all of these touches. Alex, anything you would add to that just in terms of impact?
Yeah, so I think the question is very specific, and I want to give a specific answer, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have the data. The data set for us to make inferences needs to be fairly significant. The sample needs to represent a good number of customers. And since this partnership and the product that we run is fairly new, what are we live for, like four months on this, Jordan, or something like that? And it takes a month or so to get implemented. There's also different reasons, different quality of the salespeople. Once you get that, reach out, how good is your sales process? It's hard to judge, but I can tell you right now, we will do a case study, and not a case study, we will do a data analysis on the increased number of leads and what is the percentage of nurturing leads that get bubbled back up to the top. We can probably do that quite easily, Jordan. Not easily, but it's very doable. And
right.
Once we have the good sample of data, we'll take, say, 50 property management companies, maybe 75, do it over a certain period of time, 6 months. So we need a 6-month live before we can start making any kind of inferences. I think it's very doable to have a stat come out in a few months, and we'll do a blog on this one. But right now, we just don't have enough data.
Alex makes a very good point. Anytime you're talking about a statistic, a sample set definitely matters. That said, when we talk about some of the sub metrics, things like open rate and click-through rate, I can tell you on the lead nurturing stuff that we do internally, we have about a 60% open rate and a 16% click-through rate. So that means that for every email every email that we send, 60% of people are opening the emails that we send, and about 16% are clicking on the links to actually either go to our website or to go read content on our website in the emails that we send them. So think about that. I mean, I believe in the sales course sequence, that's a total of 10 emails going out over approximately 6 to 7 weeks. So that is huge, significant engagement. We're jumping from somebody reading a one-time article on our website to now radically increasing the amount of content that they are consuming. And if they're consuming the content, the only reason that you can sustain that is because it's good content. And the more somebody reads, the more they engage, the more that relationship is built, the higher the likelihood that we're actually getting demos. And we actually do that in our particular sales course lead nurturing. At the very end, if someone has diligently and methodically consumed the content, we will, in that specific circumstance, reach out and say, hey, if you'd like a demo, if you'd like more information, I'd love to engage with you. But there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot more I can say, so I don't want to shortchange that entire issue. We will definitely be getting into that more specifically next time around. So it looks like we have covered all of the questions that I see here.
What I'll do for next time, Jordan, I don't want to pin myself to this, but I'll do my best, because we can see the open rates for all of the clients, the property management clients, emails that are being sent out auto-dripped to specific to the lead with the specific sales stages. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to pull and I'm going to average. I don't know about the leads yet, we're too early, but I can average out the open rate and the click rate, meaning that what's the percentage of people that open property management, drip campaigns, emails, and what percentage of the people click onto any kind of link, watch a video, whatever, within those email campaigns. I'll probably have that data for you next webinar.
Excellent. That would be some great information. Please do. So that's going to be in part 2. Last question is from Glenn Lehman. Do you have any statistics that document the results of nurturing strategy that compare frequency to results? So Glenn is basically asking, can you tell us a bit about the right timing, both in terms of how much space should be gapped between each email and how many emails overall you should send? We will get into that more next time. The reason that I don't want to get into too much now is because you have to qualify what part of the lead nurturing cycle you're talking about. Are we talking about a welcome campaign? Are we talking about a re-engagement campaign at the very end? Are we talking about somebody that is in the middle of our active sales cycle? So depending on where somebody is at in that overall timeline, that will determine the appropriateness of different types of frequency. And we actually have something suggested. So wait for that for part 2. Again, I want to make sure everybody understands, do sign up for part 2. Click on the green button. We are going to go over a lot more in-depth information there as well. So a couple of housekeeping notes before we sign off. We are going to be giving the ticket to the PM Grow Summit away. The follow-up email that contains the recording of this webinar will also contain the results of the winner. Thanks for joining us, guys. Alex, thanks for being my co-host on this one.
Thank you. Before you sign off, we'll actually do a live video drawing the ticket to a PM Grow conference. So you guys all know there's not like, we're not trying to be favored and give it to people who are connected to us. Nothing like that. Nothing like that going on over here on this webinar. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a live drawing of that event. I think Abby will help us out with that. And one other thing is, if you win, it's more than it's either $1,000 or more. So that's the value of that thing. So open that email, please.
Good words. Okay. Hey, guys, with that, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. We wish you success for your business. Till now and then.